Welcome, friends. In this episode, we are going to talk about when you are going through your loved one's things, all the emotions that come up from it, and how to handle them. So, welcome back, friends, and I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so grateful you're here. Please like, share, subscribe so other people can learn about this podcast and get tips to help them as well through their grief. So, last podcast episode, I talked about when you're not ready to go through your loved ones' clothings, jewelry, shoes, houses, apartments, all of the things that are left behind when somebody dies. This episode, I wanted to talk about when you are going through those things, or if you don't have the luxury of time and you have to go through those things, what to do and how to handle the emotions that come of it. So, when I was going through my parents' house, I was blessed in the way that we had time to deal with the things. We had a couple years to go through it. And to be honest, I'm very glad because the amount of things was astronomical. And so it was very overwhelming. Um, they had a full house of items, and my dad was born and raised on the farm. Like he was literally born in on that farm. Okay. He was born in their country house, and then just down in the yard was my parents' house that he had built. So there were a lot of things to make decisions on, to decide, like, is it garbage? Like, do we donate it? Do we keep it? Like, who keeps it? So it was just a lot of things. And since he was born and raised there, it was things that he had had for his whole life. And then a lot of times what happened was when other family members had died, we would take on their stuff. And so it was not only my parents' things that we were going through, it was also like items that when my great aunt had died, her only child had passed away long before she did. Her husband had died. And so the things that were left from her estate were then most of the things came to my parents' house. So it was just a lot of stuff. And it can feel very overwhelming, the amount of things that people have nowadays. It also feels like this is the last time that you are seeing some of these items. It feels like you are losing your loved one all over again. And so, no matter the amount of things, it really does feel like you're losing them all over again. And so, whether it's been the week and you have to make decisions and choices about the things, whether it's been a month or a few years, when you are faced with the decision of getting rid of something that belonged to somebody that you loved and that you held near and dear and that you still hold a piece of in your heart, it feels like you are losing them all over again. And so when this was happening, I did not feel like it was normal to feel that way. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that nobody else struggles with this. They just make decisions and they go through it, which sounds ridiculous because even as I was struggling, like I could see my siblings struggling with it. And it just felt like, well, it's because of the circumstance surrounding like my mom's death and how sudden it was, like, and how close it was to my dad passing away, that like that's why we're struggling with it. But what I've come to realize is like everybody struggles with this to different degrees of it, but it's normal. It's normal to feel like this is the last part of them. I don't want to get rid of it. I don't necessarily want to keep it. So, what do we do with these things? And what I found for myself was that I was very angry a lot of times. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I was angry at my brother and sister. I was more angry at my husband because when I would come home, like I just dealt with making all these decisions. It was very emotionally draining. And then I would come home and supper wouldn't be done, or there would be a mess in the kitchen, or, there was something that I wanted to do, but then like I didn't get to it. And then I was frustrated and angry. And so there was just a lot of stress, tension, emotions that came up during this time. And so what I want to do is I want to walk through with you what to do with that. So First and foremost, I want you, because again, everybody's a little bit different. I want you to say what you are feeling, what the strongest emotion that you're having is for you. So for me, it was probably a combination of anger, and it was also a combination of overwhelming sadness. And so those two things paired together, they would just kind of come and go throughout my day. And it just felt like a constant attack of these horrible emotions. And it was so mentally exhausting that then at the end of the day, I was so physically tired. Like I could not even make decisions. I could not decide like what show to watch in the evening. I could not decide what to make for supper. I could not it was like I couldn't figure out like if my daughter had something going on the next day, it's like I couldn't piece together in my brain the steps to figure that out. I was so exhausted mentally and then physically because you're tired, you're maybe moving things. So it was just exhaustion was another very strong emotion for me. And I want you to really pinpoint the emotion that you're feeling, not the thought. And so that is really what we get stuck on is you're like, well, what's wrong? And we're like, well, I can't do this because so and so's not here to help me, and they knew what time I was showing up, and how dare them, right? That's not a feeling. That's not an emotion. That is your thoughts. And so I really want you to try to see that, right? If you can see that, that is huge progress. You're way ahead of where I was. If just focusing on that, okay? And then try to identify what it is exactly that you're feeling, what emotion. If you're like, I don't really know, I don't know, right? Because that's our go-to thing. I don't know. Then just Google a feelings wheel, um, a feelings emotions wheel, and then it'll pop up a variety of pretty little colored wheel that you can pick your emotion from. And so sometimes we say, okay, I'm just sad. But really what we're feeling is hopelessness, despair, overwhelm. And so the feelings wheel really helps you narrow down instead of just a general, I'm sad, which again, even that is great. That's great progress. That's farther than I was then. Um, or I'm angry. Be like, well, actually, I'm not probably angry. I'm just frustrated. I'm just frustrated that at this circumstance, I'm frustrated that at barely in my 30s, my parents are no longer here and I have to clean out their house. And there's decisions that I never thought I would have to make as a 32-year-old with 6 children, trying to manage my own house and trying to juggle my marriage and all the things that were going on with that at the time. Like, I am so frustrated. I am frustrated at the personalities sometimes that my sister has and my brother has because we clash, right? We're different people. So I was frustrated. And so even saying that, stating the name of the feeling helps you get some control over the feeling. It doesn't feel like this attack that things are always coming at you. It's like, oh no, right now I am just feeling very frustrated. I can handle frustration. I may not like it. It may feel very uncomfortable and I don't like it, but I can deal with frustration, right? But instead, all these things are going on. It feels like all these emotions are just bombarding us, like we have no control over them, when really the control that we can have is naming the feeling and then allowing it. And so, again, even if you only name the feeling, that is such great progress. And I just want to celebrate that in that moment. Like, good job. Like, you are way ahead of 90% of humans on the planet. So that's amazing. Great. Good for you. You did that. You were able to name your emotion and see it. And even if you didn't see it in the moment, you were able to look back and be like, oh, like, oh, I was just feeling very overwhelmed. And that's why I yelled at my kids or snapped at my husband. for not changing the oil a week ago, right? Like something that seems like so not having to do with anything, we get caught up in that. And so naming the feeling is huge progress. If you want to try to name the feeling and then allow the feeling, that can help you move forward and not just allowing whatever actions happen, right? Like after we have a feeling, we always have some sort of action or inaction. And so if you're like, no, I'm really like I really want to stop yelling at people around me because I don't like how I'm showing up in that moment, or I really don't want to go home and then scroll on my phone for hours and I'm not listening to my kids, I'm zoning my husband out. I want to be more present. Then by doing that, you can allow the feeling. So name the feeling. So let's take overwhelm, right? Because that's a big one that comes up when you're starting to go through the thing. So it feels very overwhelming. When I feel overwhelmed, I feel like there's like a backpack on my back and it just keeps things keep getting added to it and it just keeps like my shoulders hunch and it just keeps like pushing me down and like my lower back hurts because I'm trying to push up. I'm trying to like stand up straight against all of this stuff that keeps getting added to my plate, but I just keep feeling like I get pushed farther and farther and farther down. It's like the cartoons where they take like the big hammer and they like pound them into the ground. That's what overwhelm feels like to me. I can feel it in my chest. I feel most emotions in my shoulders, and it's very much tension and pressure. Um, that's where I feel that at, and it's like I would say it's more of a greenish, that ugly green where like you know that there's a storm coming, but it's not here yet, but you just know that you're gonna have to deal with things and like you don't want to. It's that kind of color. And so that is allowing the feeling. When you feel overwhelmed, pausing and asking yourself, okay, like where do I feel this at in my body? What color is it? What does it look like? Like where and we feel the feelings because feelings are really a vibration in our body. And so maybe your hands clench up or you feel like a scowl on your face or you grind your teeth or like clench your jaw together. Like there's something that you are doing in your body when you have feelings. And so really pausing and picturing that, allowing how that feels, and then within 60 to 90 seconds, that feeling fades away. Now that's not saying it won't come back because it will, right? Like you'll do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of work and you'll be like, okay, that was good. And then you look up and you're overwhelmed again. So it's not to say that it's that allowing the feeling permanently removes the feeling. It's just saying by allowing it, it allows you to let it release and it lets you acknowledge the feeling instead of just keeping all those feelings and vibrations in your body so they just get stored up, stored up, stored up until the end of the day when it's like, I can't take it anymore. I need to just get in my bed and I sleep for 3 days. Okay. So like allowing the feeling helps. It helps in a way like get rid of them. I don't want to say get rid of them because you're still feeling it, right? But it's allowing it to pass through instead of holding on to it. And then from that, we make better choices, we make better decisions, we sleep better, we don't zone out, we're more present with our family and friends and loved ones. Like that is what allowing the feeling does. But again, if all you can do right now in this overwhelming stage of life is just recognizing the different feelings that you're feeling at different times, that's amazing. Because you'll start to get used to being like, oh, I'm not really sad today. I'm angry. And then maybe I switch from anger to overwhelm and then back to anger, right? It just allows you to have more control. And it feels like then you do have the control instead of all of these things happening to you because of what people do and say and don't do and don't say. Like it allows you to bring that back and have control over it, which does help you then feel better. So name the emotion if you can, allow the emotion. It does work to go back to it. If you're like in the middle of it and you're like, oh boy, like I really snapped today. That was not great. Like when you think back on that moment that it happened, our brain cannot tell the difference between past, present, and future, which is why if you think of something that happened in the past that gave like that felt anxiety, it can trigger anxiety. So your brain doesn't know the difference. And so when you go back there, that helps you still like recognize that and allow the feeling presently from a past emotion. And don't dwell on it. Okay. Like this takes practice, this takes time. Like just saying these things, working through them is amazing progress. And if you feel like it's not helping, like you're getting stuck, then come and talk to me. That's why, as your coach, I'm here to walk you through that. Just like you hire a trainer to get better results in the gym, this helps you get better results in your life around grief. Okay, so book a call, nursegriefcoaching.com. And I'm praying for you guys. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you ever have anything that you want me to talk about on the podcast, go to my website and I think there's a place to contact me. But my email is nursegriefcoaching@outlook.com. But nursegriefcoaching.com to book a free consult call with me. And we can talk about all of the things grief. So I'm praying for you and I hope you have the best possible day that you can.